Hey guys, Colin Ortmeyer with KILOTERRA, and today we're talking about the best state to hunt whitetail in the Midwest. And in my opinion, the best state to hunt whitetail is. We have a couple different guys here on the call today. We're talking about the best state to hunt whitetails in 2026. We have agents from Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska. Let's chat with them. Well, thanks, guys, for hopping on today. We're going to talk a little bit about some different states and some qualities into, why you might want to purchase land and hunt in some of these different states. So, Nate, you're over here in Missouri. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Missouri and kind of what, some qualities and stuff, why someone might want to buy some land for deer hunting in that state?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Lifetime Missouri resident. Obviously spent many years hunting here. When it comes to states in the Midwest for hunting whitetail, I truly don't know that there's more opportunity than Missouri. You just have a ton of access to hunting. We have one of the most diverse wildlife habitat states in the entire Midwest. We're almost specifically 50% row crop, 50% timber. Honestly, in terms of hunting, you couldn't ask for a better environment. A big thing from an investment standpoint or looking to come to the state, you're almost guaranteed an opportunity to hunt. We have ample amount of public space, but since there is so much access to the state, there's really a big opportunity to, have private land that's really sought out, honestly. So as our public land begins to fill up, those private opportunities are really sought out just for the opportunity of getting away, kind of finding those diamonds in the rough that we all know that's where the deer hang out. So
How much public land do you think you guys have in Missouri?
not as much. We don't really have an operating like WeHop program that Kansas has. Just next to us is a neighbor. So that is kind of a downfall. But we have, millions and millions of acres of public land throughout the state. The southern half, you kind of deal with the national forest. You have the Mark Twain National Forest. That draws honestly a lot of attention for bear hunters, and really starting to see that ramp up over the last 5-6 years here in the state of Missouri. But whitetail opportunities really throughout the entire state.
No, and would you say, like, as far as any restrictions, with the state that one may maybe allow you to? I know compared to some other states, maybe Missouri is a little bit more lenient, but as far as restrictions, if someone is looking to come from out of state, is it fairly accessible to get a tag?
Yeah, as far as good quality deer hunting, I don't know that there is a more accessible state in the country, honestly. So we're still an over-the-counter system. I know there's been talks about, what a draw system looks like in the state, and just moving some regulations around. But as it currently sits, we are an over-the-counter state, and it's pretty affordable. I think last time I checked for an out-of-state resident, it's anywhere from $250 to $300 for a tag. If you tighten that properly, your tag does come with a rifle tag, or you can kill 2 bucks in the state of Missouri,
Okay.
Or 2 antlered deer. So that'd be a rifle deer, an archery deer, rifle deer, or rifle deer, archery deer, depending on the seasons. They kind of break our seasons up a little different here.
You guys don't have like different zones. It's a statewide system. Like obviously when we get talking about Kansas a little bit, there's different units. Obviously Iowa, we have different zones, but is it pretty well like statewide tag, or is there different zones or territories that?
Yeah, Colin, you bet. So like you said, Kansas is units. You go into zones when you get into Iowa. We've never had a draw system here. So it's statewide. That includes public, private, everything. The only restrictions you really start to see throughout the state that seem to really vary is you'll get some antler restrictions by county. Kind of seems the further up north you go, or kind of like central up, typically central Missouri north will have a little bit more antler restrictions than the southern portion of the state.
And I know everybody kind of talks about it, but I mean, we maybe touch on this a little bit. But as far as the one word that goes out there is CWD, EHD, blue tongue disease. What are you guys seeing in the state of Missouri over the last, call it 2-3 years?
Yeah, I think rehabilitating is the word I'll use. I think we got hit pretty hard. I know there were some states, really like 2020, 2021, that really just got crippled. Missouri got hit pretty hard, but I don't know that I'd put us in that category. I know like Ohio just got smoked. But you're really starting to see some concentrated efforts from the Game and Fish here. And I mean, we're really starting to see counties drop off, but like last year they extended, they're taking additional measures. Last year we saw our rifle season extended about an extra week, and that was case by case. So at the towards the end of rifle season, they announced statewide that they were going to add 3 days, 4 days, and then again, towards the end of that deadline, they added another 3 or 4. So didn't really debilitate us much on an archery side, but from a rifle standpoint, there was just a ton of opportunity for Missouri whitetail to be harvested.
Yeah. Well, to kind of finish us up with Missouri, could you at least tell us what are the season dates? If someone's looking to get a tag in Missouri, what are the season dates that are kind of around the time? I know every date is a little bit different, depending upon the day and stuff. But what can you expect as far as archery tag, rifle tag, and muzzleloader?
Yep, you bet. So our season every year religiously opens up on September 15th. And then that will run till rifle season opens up typically the first weekend or second weekend in November, which is usually around like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th in that range. Typically extends for about 10 days. And then we'll see a second archery season open up until I think January 15th this past year. So just a ton of opportunity to hunt. Like I said, kind of the CWD extended things this last year for rifle season. So there's about 20 days that were hunted during rifle season.
Cool. Well, no, I appreciate it, Nate. I know we talked a little bit about Kansas, so we're going to hop over to Wyatt and talk a little bit about, if someone's looking to buy land or looking to even just go hunt Kansas, what are some of the benefits some people can see in that neck of the woods?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Kansas, well, I mean, it's got the track record for big deer. I mean, some of the biggest deer in the world have been shot in Kansas. And you get some of the diversity, especially on the eastern side of the state, as Nate was talking about, habitat-wise. But as far as zoning land in Kansas, it's great for out-of-staters because Kansas does have a draw system with out-of-state 80 acres. And if you own the 80 acres, you're able to buy landowner tags and hunt it, whatever season you want to do.
And is that just one tag, Wyatt, or can it for landowner, or can you have two?
So it's one tag, one antlered buck, and then I believe you can buy doe tags.
Okay.
And then I believe it's also for immediate family members too. So your wife, kids. You can't have your second uncle removed with it. Immediate family members. Prices. Otherwise, if you do not own land, you're gonna be on a draw system. Seems like 3, maybe 4 points get you into some of the units because it is broke up, unlike Missouri. You do actually have zones and units that have different quotas for the tags themselves.
As far as talk a little bit about me. I know Nate said, Missouri is pretty diverse, call it a 50-50 state, maybe 50 timber, 50 crop. I know Kansas is a little bit different where you get into different regions where, you might even have some sand hills, maybe in the western half of the state.
Your eastern side, you've got your more diversified habitat. You've got your agricultural and you got your timbered areas. As you travel west, you get into kind of the Flint Hills areas and kind of north. So you get those open ranges where it's just got the deep draws. And then you can get actually into some of the prairies out on the western edge, more toward Colorado.
And I mean, you see some mule deer out in that country, or I know I've seen some people, some videos and stuff that even you get past a certain point, you'll even get into some mule deer. So
Yeah, you get into some mule deer, and actually, I believe there's antelope even on the western edge of
wow,
Kansas.
I'll be dang. Yeah, very diverse. So you kind of talked about a tag system. How long, if one were to looking about getting a tag in Kansas, how long are we looking to potentially draw on, Kansas tag?
Well, take it 3 to 4 points if you bought a point every year. So you're looking at 3 to 4 years before you could acquire a tag if you are not a landowner in the state.
Sure. So I guess what are we looking at as far as, same thing with Missouri. Dates can be a little bit different, but what are we looking for as far as date wise, when the season opens and then when it ends and the different types of season?
So they've got basically the same structure as Missouri as far as bow season. You're looking at September through January, early January for bow season. They have what they call the monarch season, which is your muzzleloader season in September. A lot of guys take advantage of that for their shot at a velvet buck. And then mid to late December, I believe, is whenever the rifle season actually is. And that I like Kansas's structure on that over Missouri's because it gets the rifle season off of the rut. But it also gives you the opportunity that if you're hunting both Missouri and Kansas, that you can hunt rifle in 2 different states right across the border, 15 minutes apart.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really attractive to folks looking at those states. But no, appreciate it, Wyatt, on the insight in Kansas. We will jump right over to Nebraska now with Mr. Josh Anderson. I know he's up in the northeast part. I'll let you kind of talk about that, Josh. But tell me a little bit about how Nebraska and why someone, maybe not from the area or some of the benefits to Nebraska's hunting season.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. So Nebraska, we are over-the-counter tags for deer. 97% of the state is actually private, so we don't. There is quite a bit of good public ground out to the west. I'm on the eastern half of the state, up in the northeast corner. We don't have a lot of, good private ground or good public ground, but a lot of good private ground. So that's kind of an incentive for, a non-resident to, potentially want to buy ground in Nebraska because we have so much private ground available. And in return, they can get a tag every year. Regardless if they do buy ground or not, we are an over-the-counter state. So,
what would you see as far as like pressure-wise? And maybe we'll come back that maybe that's a question we ask Wyatt and Nate. But as far as pressure-wise, do you see as far as there's not a lot of public ground, so maybe those areas that are public, are they a little bit you see a lot more? Do you see more pressure on private? I mean, what do you kind of see in some of that regards?
Obviously, the bigger tracks, if you own a private track, you can kind of get away from that a little bit. But a lot of the public ground is pressured pretty good. And, a lot of the areas I hunt up here, there is a lot of pressure. But there is, our deer numbers are still good. The past couple of years, it's on a slight decline. I know our game and parks, they're trying to make some changes. But I think anywhere you hunt anymore, you're going to have pressure regardless. So you just kind of got to do, what you can do with the property you are hunting to kind of to help with that pressure, if that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely.
A big thing with us is, I know I talked about it, but you can get over-the-counter tags. So that is, a big plus for a non-resident owning ground, is they can come over every year and be able to hunt whitetail deer. So.
And you guys have like territories. I know, I'm actually from Nebraska originally, but I know we had different territories on I think we had statewide. There's different, I think, regions.
There's different units, and there's quite a few of them. I don't know. Obviously, I'm in the Missouri unit up here in northeast Nebraska, but
I guess talk a little bit too about maybe the habitat of Nebraska. I know you're in kind of northeast, and you've done some hunting kind of over a lot of parts of the state and in the western half. Talk us a little bit about the habitat and kind kind of throughout the state?
Right around my hometown, not a lot of timber, a lot of ag ground. The farther north you go to the river's 30 minutes. The Missouri River's 30 minutes north of where I live. Once you get up in that area, a lot of deer habitat, a lot of timber, row crop. We are a pretty diverse state overall. The farther west you go, that's where you start getting into the sand hills, where you start finding your mule deer, your antelope. But overall, Nebraska, definitely a lot of ag ground, a lot of row crop, but there is plenty of good pockets, when you get along them rivers, where you get a lot of timber.
So yeah, what's if someone's looking to get a tag in Nebraska, as far as archery and gun season, what are we looking at as far as seasons?
Yeah, so it's pretty standard every year. Archery opens September 1st. That runs till the end of December. Usually our rifle sits right around that middle of November. Usually it opens the second week in November and runs for a full week. And then we have muzzleloader that starts, December 1st, runs through the whole month of December. And then we have late season doe. So, September to middle of January. I know we are, as a state, trying to make some changes to that late season doe. Like I said, our numbers are definitely down, but you can still find good deer in the state. It's kind of a sleeper state. There's definitely still some good pockets out there. So.
Well, I appreciate your guys' time today. We kind of learned a little bit about, Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska, and what some of those benefits are if, you are looking to, deer hunt in those states. So we're going to hop over and talk a little bit more about some of this stuff in Iowa now.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate your time.
Yep, appreciate it.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, guys. So some of the benefits of hunting land in Iowa, or if you're looking to buy land or like I said, hunt land in Iowa, is our draw or quota system to be able to get a point to hunt in Iowa. So typically we have different zones, and how those are kind of made up is different parts of the region in the state. For instance, I'm typically hunt zone 4 and zone 5. And our archery point system, typically we have 5 to 6 points to be able to draw a tag. Now that's a little bit different for gun season, the shotgun and late muzzleloader season. 1, maybe 2 points to be able to draw a tag. So it's a little bit easier, during the gun season to be able to get a tag. So that's kind of one of the benefits, to Iowa is, we don't have a ton of people running around trying to hunt deer in Iowa where, in other states, Nebraska, Missouri, maybe, where you're able to go get a tag just over the counter. So we have a select amount of, like I said, folks that are able to hunt. So, as far as Iowa, we have very little public land, believe it or not. So the amount of opportunity, as you could say, limits, and that's why we see these deer get to such a big age structures, because, like I said, we don't have a lot of outside pressure from different states that are able to come in our during our different gun season and stuff. And another one is our different seasons, right? So here in Iowa, we usually have the start of archery season start October 1st, and that goes until the first split of the first shotgun season, which is typically right around the first week of December. And then after that, we actually do have about a 2-day period where there is no hunting whatsoever. Kind of is a little bit of a rest for after the first season of shotgun, and then after that we would have the second season shotgun season that lasts typically right around 9 days, and then that season concludes, and then right around just before Christmas, third week of December, we start our late season muzzleloader. That typically runs right around the middle of January. That kind of keeps in check some of our deer numbers, as far as, we're not having real lengthy seasons. So, people really have a limit of time to be able to go out harvest, their deer for the year. Another thing to talk about, is some of the terrain that we have here in Iowa. You can go in the far northeast part of the state where it's very, hilly and really vigorous, almost kind of type like mountain type, hills in the northeast part of the state, in Alamance and Clayton counties. And then, you can go all the way down in the southwest part of the state where you're hunting river bottoms, along the Missouri River. So, there's a big influx of type of terrain features, whether it be kind of more bluff country or more river bottom or even just rolling kind of country that we have here in south central Iowa. So a lot of different types of terrains and definitely opportunities to kill a good quality whitetail. Well, in my opinion, being an Iowa resident, Iowa is the best state to hunt good quality whitetails. But like we talked about today, every state here in the Midwest does have its advantages and its perks. So, if you are looking to, hunt or even buy land in those different states we talked with today, reach out to one of our agents, talk with them, get to know the area. They usually will know, the different parts of the state that might be best suited for you. So if you are looking in those states, give one of our agents a call.